because notifications have been kind of crazy with YouTube lately. There's a
And welcome everybody to another episode of the Saw Society, featuring host Mr. Man Things, and I am your host Ed Honcho. And if you guys are familiar with the Saw Society, man, we cover a lot of things that are going on in America and the world today. And I mean, from economics to political situations, I mean, just everyday things that are going on, around the country, around the world, things that will affect your life as a member of society. Mr. Man Thing's been it's been about a week or so, maybe almost 2 weeks or so, something like that.
Yeah, I want to say it's been about 2 weeks since the egotism streak.
Yeah. So how's everything been going?
Oh, it's been going really smooth, man. I've got a couple of things that I am getting into because I know I've told you that I put in my 2 weeks at work, and I've got some other things that I want to pursue because, nobody ever made their own way in life making money for somebody else. And I am looking for a way into cryptocurrency mining right now, because if you look at the way that things have gone, everything kind of like lives and dies by Bitcoin. But the one that I really want to get into is Monero, because they're following through on the promise that they're going to keep it completely and totally private. And so if you know anything about cryptocurrency, like if you spend any money with Bitcoin right now, the money that's in your wallet has been tracked from day one. And if they have to like investigate something or anything like that, they're going to know every single person who's ever had that chunk of Bitcoin in their wallet. Yeah. So this one's actually looking to remain anonymous. And cryptocurrency mining is just one of the only things where the more it just works out mathematically. It's not like a thing where if you invest in something, if you throw a bunch of money at it, you're just praying for a return. It's kind of like adding horsepower to a car. The more horsepower you add, the more horsepower that you have. That horsepower doesn't just go away. So if you build like these rigs for mining cryptocurrency, you've already got that hashing power. So it doesn't matter if one coin completely tanks. There's always another coin that's going to take its place that becomes profitable. Yeah. So that's something that I want to get into because it's basically just passive income. You burn a little bit of electricity and it's profitable to make money off of it. So that's what I'm looking forward to. But that's the only really major thing that I've decided to get myself into. Other than that, it's just been smooth sailing and enjoying the summertime, man.
Okay. So just a question. So Monero, what is their? I know different coins. I know they have kind of different angles or different aspects of the the blockchain that they kind of focus on. They're using it for different reasons. Now I've heard of Monero. Now is that like one of the security coins, or what is?
It is the premier security coin. They just they're going through a market correction right now because everybody started selling whenever it was high, but it got a lot of good publicity because they're not trying to have it used for drug trade and everything like that. They're trying to have it used for legitimate purchases, but just be private. And so they are really libertarian-minded people, and they just want everybody to be secure, have absolute privacy, and that's the way that they're going to keep it. Also, they don't want centralization on their blockchain, because what happens with a lot of them is they have these things that are called application-specific miners. They're called ASICs, and once you start getting ASICs into the blockchain, it really allows for companies that build them, like Bitmain out of China. If they're the ones that are manufacturing them, then they can also just keep a giant storage warehouse full of them that are running 24/7. So they then control the most hashing power on that block. And it gets away from the whole idea of cryptocurrency being decentralized.
Okay. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So, man, there's been a lot going on. I mean, the hot topic right now, of course, and I think just recently, a couple of hours ago, that some policy was made, some changes to the policy were made. But a couple of topics we want to touch on tonight. Let's just kind of start with the immigration situation. I know right now a lot of people are up in arms and upset about the policy of separating the children from the families at the border. And now I'm kind of in a mixed bag myself, and of course, for the sake of humanity, you want families to be together, but at the same time, you have to look at the situation we are, especially here in America, as far as the safety of the country, as far as upsetting the balance when you just let anyone come into this country, because there are people who definitely want to harm, who do want to do bad. And I'm not saying that everybody who comes across the border is a person who wants to do that. And of course, children, they only know what they know, and they're not the ones to blame for this. But how do you feel, about I don't know how long it's going to take into effect, because again, like I said, I think he signed it recently. I don't know exactly what the changes were, but from what I've heard, is basically that they're going to end that policy of separating families. So how do you feel about the situation prior to, and then kind of what we got to and how we are now, and how quickly they actually came together and made changes to this policy?
I think it's something that it's been needing attention for a long time, because every time anybody tries to touch immigration reform, it's political suicide for your party. And that's why politics plays into it, because you don't want to be the party of absolute open borders, but you don't want to be the party of let's just shut everything off to the outside world and let's only, us first. But it's amazing to me that for the past probably 35 or 40 years, the illegal immigration thing has been a big topic. And then for about the past 15 years, it's been a hot button topic. There's things to be said for both sides of it. You already kind of touched on that, because yeah, you don't want to be just completely and totally off base with everybody else around the world. You don't want to just shut yourself off, but at the same time, unfettered immigration law means that all kinds of people can get into your country. And so for me, the way that I view it is you can't have a bunch of people living in fear inside of your own country. My personal take about illegal immigration has always been that it's a human rights issue, because if you're undocumented, then that allows you to be taken advantage of by the labor force. That's why you have all these people that work for less than minimum wage, because yeah, it's a better opportunity for them than the kind of jobs that they would have had in whatever country that they're coming from. But same token, it creates a black market for labor. Anytime your government shuts something down, it creates a black market for it. So the black market for labor is what led to a lot of people being taken advantage of. So you talk about someone who's been here for 20 plus years. How much further along do you think that person would have been in life, or how much better off do you think they would have been had immigration reform been taken care of much longer ago, and then given them a really good, quick shot into mainstream labor force? You got people that would have already moved up and out of the middle class. You've got people that would have invented things. They would have started new businesses. They would have done all this stuff. But instead of treating it as a right of somebody who is already working in the country and who's already producing for the economy, instead of treating it like that, it's been turned into, well, you're a xenophobe if you don't like immigrants, or, no person is illegal, and yada, yada, yada. It's all these hyperbolic statements that float around out there. And it hasn't been turned into something that's been focused on in the right way. What do you think about the situation with Trump? Does it seem like he's almost like the crazy that needs to be in there to fix everything, to get anything done? I mean, the man's getting a lot done.
Yeah, I absolutely will give him that, man, and that is something that definitely surprised me, because I like I said, we talk about it all the time, and I'm not as far as politicians, period. I don't care if it's Trump, I don't care if it's Obama, I don't really care for many of them, but I can honestly say that Trump has executed more than I ever intended that he would, and the fact that maybe it's. I don't know exactly what it is. I was watching something about him, actually kind of doing watching a little documentary on Netflix about Trump and kind of how he come up. And I think maybe that's that get it done, that business mentality of executing things, not let's stop bullshitting around and let's get this problem solved so we can move on to other things. Maybe it's the jolt that we needed. Sometimes, you got to be a little bit more aggressive. The thing about Obama, to me, he was a bit more passive and seemed like he was more concerned with pleasing people or those around. And Trump is just kind of, what's he got? And once he has something in his mind, that seems to be the target, and he gets it done. And again, like I say, just I thought that personally that Trump would be a disaster. Honestly, I mean, just not like, okay, this guy has no political experience. The way he goes about, his rise to political stardom, if you will. But honestly, again, maybe that outside presence is what's needed. It seems to have a lot of these politicians who have been career politicians kind of, unstable, not feeling as comfortable as they have been, for so many years. And they're actually getting out and trying to get things done because I think they're in fear of losing the position that they're in. I think so I think that the residual effect has actually been positive overall.
Yeah, and they talk about like a red wave, blue wave type thing. My hope for the Trump presidency is that it does end successfully, because if the administration is successful, Trump doesn't have to be successful, his administration does. Then that bodes well for the rest of America. But I'm hoping that he's that fuse. He's the flame that goes to the fuse that lights off a powder keg of people going, you know what, man, like, he's crazy, but somehow he's able to get all this stuff done. And what if we had somebody who was able to accomplish the same things, but was more toned down and was a little bit less unhinged and unpredictable? I hope that it brings about like a change in voters' minds. Like, look, you don't need a politician to get things done. Trump can prove that. But if you want Trump plus, then you've got to look for better candidates. You can't just go to the red or the blue side of the house and say like, well, which one's going to fuck us less? Okay, that's the one that I'm voting for. So, I do hope that he's successful at what he's going to do, but that's just kind of like the way that I view that. I think he is the crazy that the country needed, and I think he's the one that, that they deserve in D.C., making their skin crawl. They deserve that for playing politics as usual for so long.
Okay. All right. I definitely agree with that, man. And the thing I found very interesting is the quickness in which this got done. And because my thing with politicians is just like, they have so many breaks, especially with the Congress and the House, and they get so many breaks. They get all these vacations. Every year it seems like they're giving themselves a raise, and it seems like they're always hassling over these issues that, they may be pretty complex, but it doesn't seem like it should be as difficult as it is to get these things done. Do you think that there will be a change? Do you think that you see more policy getting enacted at a rapid pace, or do you think this is kind of a one-off thing because it's such a hot button topic?
I don't think it's a one-off thing, man, because everything that he's been, that he said he was going to do whenever he was campaigning, like you said, it's that business mindset. He's not going to let things stand in his way, and he's not playing, for political capital. A lot of people that get in that position, they don't want to harm their particular party's ability to campaign for themselves and to keep control of the House, or just not completely and totally lose for like 20 years. It's a political capital game. So he just wants to get stuff done. I think that this is just falling in that same vein. It's just the Trump mania. It's him just saying like, nope, we're going to find a way to get it done. The other thing that I think is interesting is it's funny that it's come down to all of this like hysteria over immigration, because he sent out a shot across the bow to Congress like 8 months ago and said, you need to do something on immigration. You need to send something to my desk so that I can sign it and we can start immigration reform before I have to like do it myself. And Congress didn't get shit passed, and that's not the way it's supposed to happen. There's a lot of the talking heads on the news talking about, well, President Trump could make this go away with one stroke of a pen. That's not how our government's set up. Congress is supposed to create the laws, and then, it has to pass the checks and balances of power. The president is not a king. You don't want Donald Trump to do everything with a pen. That's how you end up with the whole world being crazy if you just let Trump make decisions right off the cuff. He tried to get Congress to do their job, get a new law passed, get it ratified, and then submit it on his desk. And he tried to get immigration reform done. He just said the only stipulation is, I want my wall. That's his campaign promise. He can't look weak on that one. And nothing got done about it. So Congress did what they always do whenever it comes to immigration, kick the can down the road to avoid taking a black eye. There's going to be fallout for any decision that they make because it affects 300 million people and then, 10 million illegal immigrants in the country. There's going to be negative press coverage of anything bad that happens because that's how the news is. So they kicked the can down the road, and then it wound up that Trump was just like, all right, I'm going to do exactly what I said I was going to do because you haven't produced legislation. You haven't given me anything to sign. You haven't done what I told you to do months ago. Now here we are. I'm glad that he ended the whole splitting the families up at the border thing. That's avoiding a stab in the heart for him. But damn, man, it's like I said, it's crazy that he gave them the warning shot so long ago, and they still kicked the can down the road. And now everybody's acting like, oh, Trump could fix this. Trump's not supposed to fix it. He's the executive branch. He's supposed to execute the law and uphold the law. That's all he's supposed to do.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Before we jump onto a couple other topics, I want to kind of stick to the Trump thing. And you were talking about things reaching his desk. Not that long ago, and it was a surprise move to me also. Trump reached out. Was this something that I kind of wanted to cover, the Kardashian Trump situation? And she came through and had a conversation with him and got some things done. So I've kind of fallen back on my critiques of some of these entertainers and some of these other celebrities because if someone actually used their status to get something done. But then shortly after that, he reached out to a lot of the NFL players and said, hey, we have a situation. You guys are, saying that, there's some things that need to get done. Send me some names, get me some information on people you think that have been railroaded, have been unjustly, apprehended by the legal system or have been put in a bad situation or whatever it is. And the other day he said that no one has responded. No one has sent anything to his desk. And then I think before that, honestly, I believe before the Kardashian situation, he invited or Meek Mill had an opportunity, who had just recently been incarcerated and railroaded and put in a very bad situation by the judge, even when the cops came out and said, okay, hey, this stuff didn't happen. There were some lies. There was some falsification of evidence and stuff. And he kind of declined the situation when he could have had an impact, a firsthand impact, and said, hey, this is what's going on. This is how it's happening. This. But how do you feel about that? I mean, it gets to a point where it almost feels like people just enjoy complaining about it when the opportunity, even if you don't believe what he's saying, even if you don't trust him, don't you still take that opportunity? I mean, you can only put the ball in his court, right? Well,
I think, I don't know if you and I talked about this before, but do you know why Meek Mill didn't end up going to the White House?
I mean,
Jay-Z told him not to because it was going to hurt. It was going to hurt the community, I guess is the way that he worded it, but also he slipped some language in there, according to what I've read. Now, I'm not saying that this is exactly what Jay-Z said. This is just, what's come across my computer screen. He said it's going to hurt your brand. It's going to hurt your image. So instead of going and talking about prison reform and being a firsthand, account of what can go wrong extremely quickly with the prison system in America, he just said, no, that's cool. I'm not going to do it. So again, like, you see Trump softening up on the position and trying to extend an olive branch and saying like, okay, well, this is getting us nowhere. How about we just try to figure something else out? But then when he does, the same people that were saying like, he's not doing anything for my community, he's not doing anything for incarceration, he's not doing anything to combat, systemic racism in America. When he actually tries to do something like that, the same people that just wanted somebody to do something, a man of action, all of a sudden, crickets, nothing. It seems like here's a solution to your problem. Well, light that on fire. I don't want a solution. I just want to be mad.
Exactly. And that's almost what it is. And that's, I say, it starts to bother me. I started looking at certain things in a different light. And trust me, my opinion of Jay has changed greatly since he openly endorsed Hillary, and there's that whole situation, and we'll get into that at another time. But I want to talk about a couple other things that we've missed, and one of those things is California has some interesting things going on there, and you're currently in California, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so maybe you have a firsthand knowledge of what's going on. From what I've heard, there's been a proposal, and I believe the guy is a tech billionaire, with a B, I think, a billionaire, Silicon Valley guy or something like that, and basically proposed splitting California into three parts: Northern California, and Southern California. And like I said, I would believe the Northern California would have been made up of the top 40 counties, and then I think California was L.A. and a couple of counties around L.A., like 6 or 7 counties around L.A., and then I think the bottom was 12 counties would be SoCal. Now, I'm not sure of the political layout. Like I said, this was a couple of weeks ago when I looked at this. And how do you see that kind of reshaping the political structure of, well, I guess it would be 3 states now, but of California?
So you would maintain a lot of the population on the coast, which would be, regular California, and then you would have northern and southern. San Diego and the area down there is majority Republican, but they just don't have the sheer numbers in the state to ever give a full, I think it's 54 electoral votes to a presidential election that California gets. So even though if you look at a voting map of California by county, there's a lot of red everywhere except for on the coast. And so what it does for elections is not only does it break down the presidential election a little bit more, you're not going to have all 54 swinging one way for a candidate all the time. But at the same time, you also get more representatives because they're new states based on their population. Or no, you don't get more representatives because it's based on population. You would get new senators from each one of those states. So now the number of senators grows. Let's say regular California remains Democrat, and then you've got Northern California that goes Republican and Southern California that goes Republican. All of a sudden, you've got 4 new seats that are red in the United States Senate. So that can swing it that way. It can change the political landscape by an insane amount overnight. And as far as like being out here in California, where I live is close to Fresno, which is oil, farming, industry, stuff like that. This is most definitely Trumpland, California, right out here where I'm at. It's crazy, but it's kind of the same thing as the Brexit movement. It's kind of the same thing as what was that place in Spain? I'll think of the name of it here in a minute. They were trying to secede, and the police were beating the shit out of people going to the polls and stuff like that. Catalonia.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, if your area starts to develop its own identity and it's got its own particular likes and dislikes, but somebody, 150, 200, 300 miles away from you has just a shit ton of people packed into a small area and they all vote one way and you are constantly being subjected to their policies. I mean, for me, that's wrong because I am all about the principle of non-aggression. I don't even vote out here because I'm going to be leaving the state whenever, we get done with our time out here and I'm moving back to Texas. So if my vote's going to affect the way that it swings out here and then somebody else is going to have to deal with the effects of my vote, that's a crop for me because I'm not going to stay in this state. But yeah, it's a really interesting situation when you think about how it can switch things up politically. But ultimately, I think it's a good thing for people in their own area to be in control of themselves. The smallest form of government should be the most powerful, in my opinion, not the largest.
Okay. So would you say, I mean, considering, I guess, what we identify, say, land-wise, maybe not by the population size, would you say California's more of a red state?
The areas that so whenever I was in the Marine Corps, I was stationed north of San Diego, met a whole mess of Republicans down in that area. Traveled through Northern California, like Bakersfield and further north, a couple of different times. it's all farmland. It's really, really pretty in Northern California. It's big green pastures, you know, it's not the desert part. And then you get up into Oregon. So it's kind of like the transition between desert and like a heavily forested area. But again, a lot of people that are just, you know, when they look at who's going to do something for them, when you have like Republican leaders talking about, we're going to get rid of the death tax so that whenever you die and pass your farm on to your kids, that's not going to get taxed because you've been paying taxes on that land and you've been paying taxes on everything that it's produced and you've been paying taxes on any money that you've made on it for the past 40, 50 years or 200 years, however long that farm's been in that family. So those people that are more in that particular kind of lifestyle are going to vote that way. So I haven't met a whole lot of people from Northern California, but I can see why it would swing that way for almost for sure.
Okay. That's real interesting because I mean the we definitely get I guess outside of California we see it as a super liberal situation, but I guess you know all that LA kind of that's what people primarily focus on, and so I guess that's what we're getting. A couple other things have taken place. I want to say since the last time we've had a conversation in the society, the meeting between Trump and Kim Jong-un, right? Un is the junior, Il is the older of the two, right? Was the father?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Kim Jong-un. And so, how do your feelings about that? I mean, do you feel like I heard a lot of people say, you know, we came to the table, we kind of gave him a platform, but we really didn't get as much out of it as we should have. We kind of, you know, basically legitimized North Korea, but we didn't really, you know, get anything done. How do you see that meeting? I mean, what do you feel was the primary beneficial outcome that we got from that?
So here, unfounded, just kind of gut reaction estimation of what Trump is trying to do in North Korea. I think that he's trying to open North Korea up for all of the rare earth minerals and for some of their natural resources that they can't get to, so that he can be, you know, the first person to strike up trade deals with them. Especially because we need rare earth minerals for photoelectric panels. We need rare earth minerals for all these batteries that we're making and all this kind of stuff like that. And we don't have big deposits of like lithium and everything like that, but also because of regulations from the EPA being what they are in our country, we can hardly even mine them because it wouldn't be profitable. So we let places like China and then the Korean Peninsula and all those places like that, we let them take care of all of that as far as like mining rare earth minerals. So I think Trump is just looking for a trade deal, but also he's looking for like his legacy, you know, denuclearize the the Korean Peninsula as a whole, get rid of the Korean War, all of that stuff like that. I think it's a pet project with a few bonuses for him. I don't really see how we lost anything or how we legitimized North Korea in it. I heard that all over the news because, you know, if you watch CNN, they're going to talk about how we lost our butts off when we didn't even trade anything. And then if you watch Fox News, they're going to talk about how it's the greatest day ever. Was it a historic moment? Yeah. United States president meeting with the God King of North Korea. Absolutely. I just don't think that, I mean, all they did was just sign an accord that stated that they were committed to denuclearization of the North Korean Peninsula. So, yeah, man, I don't see that it was like earth shattering. There weren't any crazy decisions made right then, but now you've got like, you know, they're talking about having Kim Jong-un over to the White House and all these different things. you got Dennis Rodman crying and weeping because he got death threats. Yeah. He got death threats and nobody believed in him and he believed in North Korea. That was actually pretty funny too, because watching Jim Acosta's face whenever Dennis Rodman was talking about how like former President Obama didn't give him the time of day and all this other kind of stuff like that. And you got Dennis Rodman, just this weird, pierced up dude that you remember seeing him in dresses with the zebra or the cheetah hair and all this kind of stuff. And he's got a MAGA hat on. Yeah. It's crazy fucking time to be alive. Man.
Well, you're not lying about that. About Dennis, do you think that Dennis's relationship, his ventures to North Korea, do you think that added anything to the table of Kim Jong opening up and maybe be considering, you know, the interaction with the U.S., or do you think that he was kind of in a situation where he was desperate? I've heard a lot that the North Korean people are starving and basically almost like hostages in their own country for the most part. If you're not, buying into the rhetoric and the propaganda that they're pushing, they're going to throw you in a little internment camp. So of course, everybody you talk to is going to sound like, hey, yeah, we love it. North Korea is great. Yeah, it's cool. But in reality, anybody who dissents is basically getting killed or getting hidden away.
Yeah.
So do you feel like Dennis had any benefit to that, or like say more just kind of the struggles that they were having in North Korea?
I think, I mean, that's a tough cookie, man, because I mean, I think that Dennis may have exposed Kim Jong-un whenever he was really, really younger to a little bit of like Western society by showing him all of those things. Maybe that planted some seeds in his mind and made him want to come to the table. But ultimately, if you look at the past administrations, it's almost like, let's just treat this like, like hot potato. Let's just keep throwing it to the next guy, and nobody did anything. And then, you've got Donald Trump tweeting about his big red button actually working and all this and that and the other. But then like 3 days later, he's like, oh, you'd like to meet? Okay, cool. Well, we can do that. I think Rodman might have had a thawing effect on the desire from North Korea's side of things to meet with anybody from the U.S. And then also, like you talk about the people starving, that's because of sanctions by the United States, like yanking China up by the chain. A lot of people think that China is like this big threat to the United States. No, absolutely not. They have a lot of people, but they don't have the exact same military resources that we have. So they talk about like the 1 million man army and all this other kind of stuff. China also is hugely dependent on the United States buying all of the crap that they produce. So if we stop buying that and go look somewhere else for it, China has no choice. So all of the pressure that was being put on North Korea with all of the economic sanctions and the pressure that was being put on China, that has a really big effect whenever your people can't produce anything, because even in a centrally planned economy, like a socialist or a centrally planned economy, you have to be able to produce something. So you have to have some form of trade, because you can't produce everything in that small of a country that you're ever going to need.
Okay. So speaking about the sanctions, and kind of that's another topic that's been a lot of people have been talking about, the tariffs that Trump has placed on a couple of countries. I know China being one. If I'm not mistaken, a couple of European countries, and the most interesting of all to me, Canada.
Oh my God, dude! Him arguing with old Brittany Trudeau up there.
what was the old saying? The wise philosophers Matt Stone and Trey Parker blame Canada.
Yes, exactly.
They told us years ago to be on the lookout. But also, Canada, as a side note before we jump into that, Canada has recently legalized marijuana, I believe, becoming the second country to fully, it's legal. So that's very interesting. I wonder how much marijuana tourism they'll see from the northern states up there. But yeah, with the tariffs and things going on, what do you ultimately feel is the basis for Trump kind of, upping the ante on these guys?
I think he's just looking at chipping away on the trade deficit that we have, because any way that Trump can help the economy, like, he's like, all right, we got 4% GDP growth and we've got all these great things going on here. So now how are we going to start getting all these things that we're about to produce out of our borders and get cash flowing back into the United States instead of being like a trade surplus instead of a trade deficit? So he's looking at all these different things that, what was it? I can't remember what Germany had a tariff against the United States for. I think it was dairy products or foods or something like that, or grain. And he basically just put it like, they send all these Mercedes-Benz, they send all these things over to us, no tariffs on them or very low tariffs on them, and then they won't even accept the trades that we have for them. That's what trade is supposed to do. It's supposed to facilitate economic growth for both countries. So instead of not getting anything at all, well, then I'll just levy tariffs against your biggest export to the States, which is the Daimler, Chrysler, and Mercedes-Benz. I'll go ahead and just levy some tariffs on that until you decide to come to the table and play ball. Once your sales figures are down and once you have to start laying people off over there because the tariffs are going to hit you where it hurts, then maybe you'll want to come and, sit down at the table and play. But I think he's just looking to not get us into a trade surplus, but he's looking to chip away at those deficits. Anything like Trump's worldview is winner, loser.
Exactly.
There is no in between. There's no like, well, we can both benefit from it or whatever like that. It's not a zero-sum game for him. He wants to acquire. He wants to get and gain. And he's looking at trade as a way to make some statements about like, look, you can come and benefit from being a partner with the states, but you're not going to take advantage of the United States. Like, we're not doing it anymore. It's like what he says over and over again. So I think he's just trying to whittle away at the trade deficit, because even if you don't get rid of the trade deficit, I think we have like an $800 billion trade deficit. Well, let's say you're able to cut that in half. Now there's only $400 billion a year getting offshored out of the United States. We have $400 billion staying home locally that's going to help us with our economy. So I think if he could, he would completely get away with the trade deficit and have us in a trade surplus where we make more off of trade than we spend out. But yeah, that's where I think his intentions are with the tariffs, is just slapping people around and saying like, look, yeah, this is no good, no deal.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you mentioned about that win or lose mentality, and I do have to give him credit for that, because I like that approach. Like I say, I was watching the documentary about him, and that's what they were saying. There's some people close to him. They say, hey, it's predator and prey. There's no other option. You're one or the other. And of course, you most likely, well, not most likely, you want to be the predator as opposed to being the prey, because you're going to get slaughtered, literally. One other thing that I want to talk about, and I think is a very big move, and I got to do a little bit more research, because it's a part where I get a little confused in between certain companies. But AT&T has recently acquired Time Warner. And I know already, a lot of people complain in this country about the lack of options as far as when you start talking about internet services, you start talking about cable companies and things like this. And where I always get mixed up is Time Warner, Comcast, that whole kind of thing. Because then I'm hearing somebody else, like, if I'm not mistaken, like Fox is interested in buying Comcast or something. So I always put Time Warner and Comcast as the same company. So maybe I had that confused or something like that. But how do you see that affecting, Americans as it goes forward? Or do you feel like we're moving towards an almost monopoly when it comes to internet service providers? Because the options are starting to decline really across as few as they already are.
See, that's what sucks, is because I'm a free market guy. The more options that there are out there, the more competition that there is, the less price gouging that you're going to see, because you don't want to lose customers to somebody else. And I hate the fact that internet is so easy to do, because if you think about it, what happens whenever they like upstream from the actual infrastructure, like it's the same thing as like a street out front of your house. All the infrastructure is already there. Whenever you move from one place to another and you get into that house and they come to turn your internet on, all they do is just go to the switch box and make a connection. And then they make sure that you pick up your signal in your house and everything like that. But the major infrastructure that they have to spend money on is all of like the servers and stuff like that. So if you have all of these different companies that are actually able to compete, they're not signing like a non-compete for a certain area and this zip code's yours, but we'll take this zip code because that's fair. I really wish that internet were a more free enterprise opportunity, and that's why I'm kind of excited about some of the stuff that like Elon Musk and then Zuckerberg from Facebook are doing with like the drones that fly around and they provide internet service. Yeah. There's more than one way to skin a cat, but even DirecTV, you can get internet via satellite now. Yeah. So I see new players coming into that market. And there's going to be a lot of people that make a lot of new money off of it, because people are tired of having Comcast and Xfinity whenever it's down half of the time. Especially like you, you're a content creator, so a lot of what you're able to do depends on that shit being up. And I hate that whenever your stuff goes down, you have to yell at somebody to get a credit on your account, because it's almost like, well, if you're going to give us that money and we don't have to give you the service, I mean, we would just keep it. But I mean, if you really want it back, I guess we'll give it to you. And you're like, I paid for something that I didn't get, man. So I think that there's going to be a lot more competition coming into it with the internet by drone and the internet by satellite and stuff like that. But I'm not a big fan of two major companies, one absorbing the other just because it makes their profit margins go up. Because that means if you don't have another internet service provider for 300 miles, then the only option you have is to put a satellite dish on the side of your house. Well, what happens if you rent a house or something like that? Then you're stuck with that one internet service provider. Yeah, I think it's bad juju, man, because you'll start watching like what happens with the prices like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months from now, they'll tick up a little bit. And then after the beginning of the year, there's, they are regulated to keep them from just jacking the prices up to whatever they want. But it's just like the electrical company. They're federally mandated that they can't raise more than, I think, 8% year over year. And they max it out at 8%.
Exactly.
So it's one of those things, man, like you can't record profits and then your stock's doing well and your shareholders are doing well and then turn around and be like, oh, well, we got to charge more because it costs a lot of money to do business. No.
Man, that's very interesting though. The internet drone, I hadn't heard of that. That sounds
man. That was a Facebook thing. Zuckerberg wanted to put a bunch of drones like flying around over like Africa and underdeveloped countries to get internet in to where people don't have access to it. And there's no government that's going to actually go through and lay infrastructure out, or there's no big company that's trying to put a whole bunch of internet hubs in sub-Saharan Africa. But there's all kinds of stuff, man. Technology is always going to find a way to innovate.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, that's definitely something when we get off stream, I'll definitely have to look into, man. That's very interesting. So we've talked about a variety of things. We've covered some things. Is there anything that is taking place? Anything that's on your mind? And if I see some of you in the chat, if you got anything going on, primarily on the society, we tend to ignore y'all just a bit, because we kind of have things on our mind. But, when we get towards the end, and again, with the society, if you have questions, if you have things that you want answered, and I know that our scheduling is sporadic, it's all over the place, and it's just been back and forth. There's been a lot of stuff on my end, and we've just been able to just kind of missing each other a little bit. But, hit the society mailbag, and whenever we do have a society, we will make sure, to cover your questions, whatever it may be, whatever it is that you want addressed. So again, if you have questions, if there's anything any news topics, anything, I mean, just in general that you guys have on your mind that you would like to discuss, feel free at this time, drop it in chat, or, again, Society Mailbag. In the next episode, we'll be sure to cover it. Outside of, political and world news, I know there's been a small issue a lot of people have been talking about. And it's just something that's definitely made me look at stuff a lot differently. Recently, 2 days ago, the rapper, and I can never say his name right.
Triple X Tentacion.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. But, I felt bad for the little dude, man, because from what I've seen from the guy, his music is not my bag. It's not my taste. I've heard of one or two of his little songs. But the unique thing about this kid, to me, is that he garnered so much fame and never made a music video. Like never, he's had features with big time artists and things like that. Never appeared in any of the videos, and so that's why I know there's a lot of people out there who are not really familiar with him. And again, like I said, I only know because of probably associated in the sauce and probably associated with some of the younger crowd that comes through there and they're hey, check this guy out, or check that out. And I check it out and don't like it, but I'll give it a shot. And it was recently killed, and it's just kind of the thing I kind of wanted to touch on is some of the conspiracy theories and things like, and I just wonder where some of these things come from. Is it from people just really having a hard time of letting go? Do people feel like things just have to be bigger than what they are? But a lot of these theories are, I've heard things that he's not even dead, that he's hiding. And okay, this ain't this is like almost the Tupac situation rehashed, but I'm not gonna say the kid's on the level of Tupac and whatever thing was going on with that. But what do you think that is about people when it comes to celebrities and and their deaths, that just makes them. It almost seems like it makes them think the most unreasonable things in certain situations.
I don't know, man. I mean, Elvis Presley, everybody.
Yeah.
Elvis ain't dead. Blah 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 blah. Just real weird stuff that people come flying off the handle with. I think it stems from adoration for that particular individual. You know, some people talk about, you know, well, this kid can't be dead. He's too good. You can't get cut down in the prime of your life whenever you're breaking it big for just some kind of senseless, no real reason whatsoever. So I think they start turning to like, well, maybe he's just, you know, playing dead and he's going to like reinvent himself or, you know, some crazy artist nonsense like that. I think it starts with good intentions, but then it just is kind of one of those things. It's just like fan theory. When you hear about, you know, a show that's really popular and people start running off with their own alternate versions of it, and they start trying to figure stuff out ahead of time, and they have all these really weird, you know, fan fiction theories that come along with it. It's just like in that same vein. They're borderline obsessive with something, and they can't get enough of it, so they start like inventing their own new kind of unfolding storyline, if you will. And one of the things, I don't even know, man, what happened to that kid exactly? I know from what I read that he got shot. What was it in relation to? Has there been anything on that?
And that's the thing, like that's what people are kind of like, nobody's really sure. I've heard speculation, again, with some of these in the internet, especially in this day and age, people have gone crazy. But people did a bunch of research, and apparently what was said is that the guy or the shooters, there were two vehicles. One was the Chevy Tahoe. There was one of the shooters was wearing a mask. And what they did is they tracked some local area rappers who were like 8 minutes down the road, who had posted some stuff on their Instagram, eating at I think a little fish place. And he was down the road shopping for motorcycles. And basically these rappers have a video or something like that where they have this red mask. Recently took a picture in front of a white Tahoe. A lot of little things that almost kind of correspond with the situation, but then these guys come out and say, hey, you know, everybody's talking about this and this, but it wasn't us, it wasn't me, it wasn't, you know, and this and that whole thing was kind of suspect. I don't know if you ever get a chance to look at it, because sometimes I watch those CIA analysts, and they'll talk about, you know, lies and, you know, little telltale signs and things like that. Of course, you know, everything. Sometimes people can be nervous, but some of those things that those guys are doing, as I'm looking, they kind of fit the description of some of those signs that people tell you to look out for when someone is fabricating a story. They were kind of had some little nervous movements, it's a lot of little things, but I'm kind of wary of them. But yeah, I think Brandon was saying, he said he was shopping for motorcycles. He was leaving the motorcycle spot, and basically they pulled up on him and shot him. But I see you asked too, what has to change in hip hop for everyone to stop killing? Man, that's definitely a big thing. But yeah, with him, it's like I said, I don't know if there was any known beef. I know I've heard people speculate maybe it was something from his past, because everything I saw from the little dude, honestly, was trying to promote a lot of positivity towards others. I mean, some other little rappers I would see, he would send messages to, hey man, you know, you need to get some of these guys out of your circle. You know, they're using you, and you know, you can be much better. You know, hey, let go of some of this negativity. Or the 6ix9ine kid, he was sending him, hey, you know, just kind of chill with beefing with everybody, man. You know, be positive. Like, he seemed to have I don't know if he maybe come to a realization or something. But then again, you also had these speculations that, and this is what kills me, because so many people were celebrating his death, mainly homosexuals and women, certain women, feminists more so, because they're talking about, oh, he beat up a woman. But again, like I say, there's been facts in court case, and this same woman that he supposedly beat up was showing up trying to bring gifts and things. And then something, I'm not sure about the situation where somebody said he beat up a gay dude for looking at him, but then somebody said the gay guy was trying to, you know, encroach upon his manhood, if you will. And so if that's the case, then hey, you know, I have no problem with that, because I look at that as sexual harassment, and you know, if it's the same thing in my book. But as far as like his person, like I said, I just don't know enough about him. This is like the little stuff that I've picked up, a lot of it after the fact. But then there's been people who saying that there may have been an issue with Drake himself. because they were saying some suspect lines. And the first time I actually heard about this kid was, I believe he had got out of jail a couple of years ago, and Drake had released a new song. People were saying how Drake stole or kind of mimicked his style in a couple of songs and something like that. But Brandon, with the thing about what has to change in hip hop, man, it's a thing that, I mean, the world, well, I don't want to say the world would have to change, but, you know, a lot of the hip-hop stuff, a lot of these guys come from an impoverished mind state. And when you have an impoverished mind state, you start to praise and worship a lot of materialism because they think that that's the exit. You know, hey, get a lot of money and my life will be better and everything. So these things get praised. Like you're saying, they got robbed for a Louis Vuitton bag. And, you know, I think it's just, there's always going to be that segment of, I mean, the world is going to be, there's certain things that'll just never change. And there's always going to be this type of culture that's going to be associated with hip hop. And I wouldn't even call that hip hop, because hip hop is lyricism in my book. That's rap music that you get what a lot of people just saying, a lot of, you know, gangster rap. You don't get gangster hip hop. It's not the same thing. It's gangster rap music. Rap music and hip hop are two different things. Hip hop is, like I say, lyricism, when you're actually talking about stuff, when you're actually bringing something to the table. Poetry. It's more poetry in my book, you know, telling about where I come from, not about me engaging in the detriment of my peers and those that are around me. To me, that's just rap music. You know, I'm making some stuff rhyme and it sounds good, but it's not really about anything. I feel that hip hop is more of an art form as opposed to just some anything. So,
Honcho, I think you need to bring about the genesis of gangsta hip hop.
It'll be very lyrical, but very violent.
Yeah. As soon as you said that, I was trying to think about, you know, like someone like Drake, who's a hip hop artist, like, instead of just like, oh, Drake's got, like, you know, really good rhythm and stuff like that, but him actually talking about, like, wheeling and dealing and drugs and shooting people and everything like that, but like the ooh woo woo,
vocalizing and singing songs and things like that, man.
Oh,
but yeah, man, so like I say, it's just an unfortunate situation. And like I say again, you know, my thoughts go out to that because again, you know, his art form may not have been an art form that I enjoyed, but apparently it touched, you know, millions of people out there, and it's unfortunate that he was cut short. So anybody, not just because he was a rapper or entertainer or anything, you know, anybody whose lives are just cut short for no reason, you know, it's just very unfortunate. But I guess there'll be a lot more details coming out about that in the near future, and we'll kind of find out, you know, what's going on, because I'm sure if people have this evidence and they're pointing all this other stuff out, I'm pretty sure that type of information has gotten to the cops. Also, I've heard the guys I've heard their Instagrams have been hacked. I've heard all kind of stuff going on, so I'm sure that information will be fun. Oh, the one thing I did want to talk about, but here's where it gets fucked up, because in LA, I believe last night, and I briefly read this morning, they had like a memorial to the kid, and what happens? A bunch of stupid motherfuckers go crazy, start fucking shit up, basically rioting, jumping on buildings, and then that's what I'm saying. And then this is that association, that thin line between the hip hop and rap, because you have these other characters, you have these people with other intentions. And then, like I say, you turn what should have been something that should have been a peaceful situation. Hey, let's remember this guy for the way he touched our lives and the music that he brought to us and how he, you know, helped us have that outlet. But instead, these motherfuckers started fucking up cars and fucking up buildings. I mean, basically riot. I mean, the fucking riot police had to come out and try to shut shit down, man. And so, again, a stain on something that should be, his death shouldn't be positive, but you should be able to you're trying to put it in a positive light, you know, look at the good things that were done. But then you have people who come out and ruin these things, and that's something that's always going to be consistently associated with rap music and stuff until people start, you know, changing their mentality about a lot of this shit. And I really don't know the answer. That's
the stupid shit. You know, like, that's what reinforces those fucking dumbass people that are like, oh, you know, what's wrong with black culture in America is that it's the music, it's the life and everything like that. Mm-hmm. You're not going to just tell these people that they're stupid and ignorant, even though they are. Like, that's just some dumb shit to say. Like, I listen to a little bit of country music and I listen to rock and roll and everything like that, but just because I listen to a country song doesn't mean I'm going to divorce my wife, start drinking excessively, and then fucking, you know, go ride around on a tractor all goddamn day. Yeah. But you're reinforcing negative stereotypes when you do that. But mob mentality is a really weird thing, dude, because it only takes, like, when you get that many fucking people together, it takes like one or two people to start doing some dumb shit, and then everybody else, it just goes along with it. Mm-hmm. It's a really, really fucking thin line. But yeah, like, see, like you said, it was a situation where it should have been something that was to memorialize somebody and to be in remembrance of them, and just think about like the good things that they did. If their music was something that you loved, or, you know, if it was just you wanted to go out there because you wanted to show your love and support for the family of another human being who died for no fucking reason. And then you always got the one dumb motherfucker that starts doing some stupid shit, but it spreads like a virus through a crowd because monkey see, monkey do. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And then so once that one person opens up that, it's like it almost opens up a door. Well, he did it, so it's okay to do it now. And then it's wildfire. And again, like I say, so that's going to be another stain on it, because then when you have people who are not as familiar, when they look at it, well, you know, it is a memorial celebration. Look, they're rioting, they're fighting, and it's fine. And again, it's going to continue to be associated, and you can never have anything positive come out of that, man. And so, like I say, that's a stain on this man's death. It's something that he had absolutely nothing to do with, which is rather unfortunate.
It's just going to keep perpetuating stupid shit too, man.
Yeah. It's crazy. So again, people just have to wake up on their own, man, and make a decision for themselves, because as a whole, again, like you said, that mob mentality, the mob mentality even persists when there's no physical mob, you know, in one location. I mean, it's just a mentality. If you congregate in a certain area online, or you congregate around a certain type of music or whatever it may be, I mean, it still exists, even though, you know, you may not be physically present in that moment. But
on that real quick, do you think that some of that kind of stems from a little bit of anonymity? Because like if you're in a mob out in town and you're like, wow, there's 10,000 of us, they can't arrest us all, let's fucking go act crazy, because my odds are significantly less of actually getting popped doing something crazy. When you're online, you have another certain level of anonymity. And, you know, if you start a Twitter account with a fake handle under an email address that doesn't have your name or anything else like that on it, then unless someone hacks it straight back to your computer and gets your home address and then finds out who's it's addressed to, you get a certain amount of anonymity, so you can just act stupid and crazy and never have to be held accountable. Do you think that those two things kind of correlate? Like it stems from a certain amount of anonymity, or the reduced chance of risk of getting caught for doing whatever it is you're doing?
Absolutely, because I tie all that into, like how you said about the fake Twitter accounts and trolling and all this stuff. A couple of years back, and I wish I could find it because I took some notes on it, and he was talking about basically you know, the origin of trolling and why people do it, and it goes hand in hand basically in what you said, that anonymity, and I can express these feelings and these things without there being any real repercussions on me or my character. I can go about. It makes me think of the what's his name? What was it? Not Stan's dad from South Park, when he was typing all the crazy stuff. Skank Hunt 42 or whatever he was. Or that, he started a whole fucking thing. But that's what it is, you know. That's why I say, man, it's something that you have to learn, or I've learned. It's just with a lot of online stuff, if there's no face behind it, that I don't even take it as a real comment. You know, that's why I make it real deliberate. Like when I do things, I always try to put my face on it. I make sure that my face is never too far away. So, you know, look, hey, I'm not hiding behind anything. You know, I want you to know this is exactly what I mean, and here I am, and this is my location. If you feel any particular way about it, we can discuss it or whatever it may be. And I'm going to stand behind my statements. So I'm not a person who just wants to go and troll and then hide, you know, in my corner somewhere and I got away with something. Nobody knows it was me. No, if I did it, I want you to know that I did it, I said it, or I was affiliated with it, you know. And I think that has to come, I mean, that comes down to, you know, your own personal character and, I guess another individual situation. Like I said, I got to go back and I got to find those notes because it was real interesting. You know, it was like 5 points about why people troll and how they, you know, and then, like I say, a lot of it ties into that mentality, you know, of the anonymity and being able to get away with shit that you normally wouldn't be able to do. So I think that has a significant role in it. You know? People
are fucking weird.
Oh, that's a good one. 335. Yeah, we'll end it on a lighter note, and then we'll call it a wrap after this one. Aisha Curry recently, I don't know why she thought that was a good idea. I don't know why she thought that was a good idea. And is it a barbecue restaurant? I think I'm believing it's a barbecue, which was the worst idea. Why would you try to bring barbecue from California to Texas? That's the worst thing. But yeah, it's opening a restaurant. I think it opens today actually. But she was bombarded with 1-star reviews and all that stuff before it opened up. Did you get a chance to come across that?
Dude, I was taking my old lady to work this morning, and I was listening to, you know, a couple of podcasts and everything on that. But it's hysterical to me that there's been a ramping up rivalry between the Rockets and the Warriors. Like, we faced each other in the finals for 3 years now. Or did we miss a year? There's 3 times over the past 4 years. Yeah.
Like 3 over 4, something like that. Yeah.
And it's been becoming a bigger rivalry. I don't know what possessed Ayesha Curry to open up a restaurant in Texas, and moreover, what possessed her to try to open up a barbecue joint in a state known for brisket whenever she's not from there. I don't know. Maybe she just thought she could capitalize on that. But some of the, again, people are stupid. People are weird. People are funny as hell. If you let people go, people can do some funny ass shit. Like when they were photoshopping Katie's head on a bunch of snakes' bodies and everything like that. Then writing reviews about how they went in to get some barbecue and it smelled good and everything like that. But then when they walked in the door, there were just snakes everywhere. So they got the hell out of there. Dude, people are so goddamn funny. And it's Houston's way of taking out the angst over missing 27 fucking 3-pointers in a row. Yeah. That was our series to sweep, but just astronomically bad odds kept us out of it. I think it's hilarious, man. It's just like anything else. If you look at it from the entertainment or the funny value, they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're not trying to do anything. If that restaurant tanks, Ayesha Curry ain't going to be fucking hurting, man.
Yeah, not at all.
You ain't hurt for a damn bit. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then I also think it's funny as shit, like whenever the Warriors fans came in and started trolling right back on all the Yelp reviews, talking about how, oh, it's so good in here and you can almost taste the salty tears in the tea and all this other kind of stuff. just people being funny and being a little bit raw and a little bit sensitive on the surface after not getting to the championship again.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny, man.
Absolutely. And my thing with it, I found it hilarious. My thing is just, as from the business aspect, it just seems like a poor idea.
Dumb.
I mean, you would think you would do a little bit of research, you would do a little bit of background checking. Like, there's no way, especially the Texas mentality itself. You're
it's fuck
outsider.
California.
Yeah, and you just gonna come in like, what do you think is good? You gonna come from here and teach us about barbecue? What? Like, come on, man. Like, that's extremely disrespectful. We can accept the Memphis style. We can accept the what is it? Carolina has a barbecue culture of their own.
Dry rub.
And but I'm not too long ago, I saw some people trying to say Brooklyn barbecue. I'm like, what is going on? Is it now you guys are just kind of getting out of control?
Nope.
You can't just attach a town and say barbecue behind it and really think that you're working with something. But
saying something doesn't make it true. If it's north of the Mason-Dixon, it ain't fucking barbecue. It's just meat with spices. Sorry.
Absolutely.
You can't even get mesquite that far north.
Oh, damn. Well, that's a wrap, man. I want to say, man, shout out to Man Things, man. I felt like we had us a good episode today. Shout out to everybody who fell through, who wasn't in troll mentality today. I saw a couple of y'all in your shenanigans, so I got to ignore y'all. Some of y'all talk. We just talked about trolling. Some of y'all hiding behind those names. But like I say, man, good conversation. Covered a wide variety of things. If you're just now getting here, I suggest you go back and catch it from the beginning. We covered a wide variety of topics and a lot of things that we happen to miss over the last few weeks. And we keep saying it every time, man. We're going to try to get everything copacetic, but I think we should be at a good point now where we should try to be able to get some things going consistently here forward. So make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification button. Anything you want to address? Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, man, I'm good. Thanks for the great conversation. It was good catching up with you again. And so what are you thinking for the next stream? When would you like to take care of that?
Let's see. I mean, how are you looking on
Dude,
Friday?
Like I said, I'm finally got all of my administrative crap out of the way with the old job, and now I'm just focusing on trying to get something else going as far as entrepreneurship and get myself launched off of something like that. So I'm here, man. I got time all day, every day.
All right, let's shoot for Friday.
Okay, Friday, same time, same bad channel?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And we need some of those little effects. Pow, bang. But absolutely, man. So again, like I say, thank you to Man Things. Thank you to everybody who fell through. And like I say, another good society, man. Make sure y'all hit that society mailbag. Drop your questions in there because, like I say, you're a part of the society, man. You guys are the society. Brandon 335, always good to see. I always give Brandon 335 a special sign off because he holds it down on all platforms. He knows what that's all about. But again, man, I thank you to all of y'all who came through and has been holding it down. So with that being said, we're gonna get up out of here, and y'all be cool like y'all be cool, and we're out.